We actually have a pretty sizable Halo Infinite update dropping today, and that's coming right off of HCS Atlanta weekend, which, in case you missed it, it was incredible. Might be one of my favorite Halo events of all time. I streamed it all weekend. I'll be posting videos about it. But this update, despite the fact that there's not a lot of actual playable content in here, we got like 2 new game modes, they made some meaningful balancing adjustments to like half the sandbox that'll affect both social and ranked play. Some vehicles got changed. The Bandit EVO starting weapon got nerfed. They added nade jumping. Finally, they brought nade jumping back, and it's bigger than ever. And some adjustments to rank play, and a little bit of info from Tashi on why the queue times have been taking so long recently, although I know that the servers in the last couple weeks have been struggling. If you're having issues finding games, I am, and I think everybody else is as well. I know that there's a Cloud Strike security breach or something that happened recently. I hope that's the problem, and that is fixable, and it's not just Halo being Halo, so I'm praying that we get a smooth day of Halo today. But before we grind, I'm going to read through 2 different articles, share my thoughts on everything, all the updates, how they're going to impact social and competitive play. We're going in depth as usual. So let's dive in. If you enjoy this video and you want more content like it, then don't forget to like, sub, and most importantly,
Or the fucking Shyway video!
okay, so Operation Fleetcom, it's arriving today, July 30th. It's bringing new modes such as VIP, highly requested features in Forge, such as music. You'd be surprised how much music actually brings to the Forge campaign maps. There's like this level of atmosphere and I think legitimacy that it'll bring to those maps that's missing right now without the music, in my opinion. So we're going to get, I think, over 100 different tracks. We've got Steitzer's VO, you know, for overkill, triple kill, etc., and numerous other quality of life updates. To go along with those features and content additions, we'll also be updating the gameplay experience with balance updates based on player data and community feedback. This week, we sat down with the development team to talk about weapons, legendary weapon variants, grenades, and vehicles that are getting improvements in Halo Infinite's multiplayer when Operation Fleetcom lands. Let's hear what they had to say about the updates. We got a whole variety of weapons, not just your standard weapons, but your legendary, I guess, types, your vehicles getting updates as well. We'll start with the Disruptor. So the DOT, the damage over time effect that we used to have with the weapon, love it or hate it, it's coming back with a slight variation, I guess. It says when we previously had the damage over time effect, it would only require 3 shots to trigger and would linger for a longer period of time. Now, the shock pistol will require 4 shots, so I guess slightly weaker, to land on their target in order to trigger a super combine and its resulting damage over time. If a player is able to string together 2 of these super combines, they will put enough damage on their opponent to secure a kill. So it's an 8-shot kill now. And then we got some video footage we can use for comparison. This new Disruptor, the individual shot is weaker, but then you got the damage over time that takes effect. Apparently, while the damage over time is hitting you, you don't get descoped. Here we can see DOT taking effect. It's an 8-shot kill, but only if you get 2 super combines at the end of the DOT from the second super combine. So 2 sets of 4 shots, then you die, right? So you can't just hit like stray shots here and there. You have to actually get the super combine if you want to kill him with just the Disruptor. I think this is cool, though. I think, you know, it'll bring back some uniqueness and kind of character to the weapon that it doesn't currently have. I don't really find the weapon very fun to use in general. I'll be honest, even with the DOT, I'm kind of like whatever about it, but I can appreciate the fact that the weapon kind of holds its own unique place in the sandbox. It's just not really that exciting to me. It says a few other updates also have come in alongside to help improve the feel of the gun when using it and getting hit by it. We're excited to see it back in action. So I'm not sure 100% what that means. One thing to keep in mind is I think part of the reason why they got rid of the damage over time is because I think it was sort of bugged. I don't know if it was like an online issue, but sometimes you'd get the 3 shots and the DOT wouldn't take effect. There's no mention of whether or not that's been fixed, but, you know, here's hoping it works as it should and you get the proper damage over time, and then maybe we actually see it used a little bit more in tournaments and just in general, because it's not very useful. Now, this change, on the other hand, is something I'm excited about. So it looks like the M392 Bandit and the Bandit EVO are going to have a slight adjustment in rate of fire. They're getting nerfed in rate of fire, which is something that the competitive community has been asking for a long time, and I think it's going to have a really good effect on gameplay overall. But it says we wanted to address some feedback about the Bandit's damage per second and effect on overall pace of play. The main change is we've slowed down the rounds per second to give players more time to react to missed combat instead of being quickly eliminated before they could react. We feel this is a healthy change that will improve the meta for both social and ranked play. Slower rate of fire. We got some actual footage here. The footage that they provided here is a little botched. They're showing the M392 Bandit, which has a faster default rate of fire than the Bandit EVO, and they're comparing the M392 to the Bandit EVO, which is not like a fair comparison because they're 2 different weapons. So if you want to see proper old Bandit EVO versus new, I'll throw some info up on screen for that I found on Twitter, thankfully, but you can see an adjustment in time to kill. It's pretty slight. It's not anything very significant, but I think it's enough to put the time to kill at parity with the BR, or maybe even slightly slower than the current BR, which I think is really big. Having a slightly slower time to kill is going to increase just outplayability in combat, and it's also going to increase the value of other weapons in the sandbox, like the battle rifle. So I expect to see people pick up the Commando, the battle rifle, more often and use it, more than just the Bandit, exclusively. And I think the current meta, that's so heavily based around team shotting and jiggle peeking, like that's obviously still going to be prevalent just with the way the game is designed. But with a slower rate of fire, I think it won't be quite as effective. And you'll have to be a little bit more careful and intentional with how you pace yourself around using the weapon. So I think this is just a W change. The Sentinel beam is also getting an update. It says to improve the Sentinel beam's consistency, we wanted to revise some of the complexity regarding the damage output. The Sentinel beam will do the same amount of damage no matter the range you are between you and your opponent. Coupled with that, we'll have disabled headshot capabilities with this weapon, as it was adding too many variables to the damage scaling. Now the Sentinel beam will feel more consistent while dealing clear, readable damage for the player using it. Increased base damage. So the base damage of it is actually getting increased. I don't think it mentioned that in any of this whatsoever. So it is actually getting a buff overall in its base damage, but there's no headshot modifier anymore. I guess the big issue is there's kind of an inconsistency when you're shooting and holding down a beam between the moments that you hit the head and the moments you hit the body, and understanding what exact damage you're doing is challenging. My hope for this change, personally, is that this can replace the Bulldog. The Bulldog Shotty is currently getting a lot of criticism in the competitive community right now, just because it's easy to use, and it's not that it's, like, overpowered in any way. Like, I don't think the balancing of the weapon is, like, off by any means. I just think it's easy by default. The way it's designed, it's got a giant reticle. You can one-shot beat down in close quarters. If you're perfect with your aim, you're two-shot killing somebody. It's just almost like an auto win without much effort required, especially in a competitive level when pros and high-level players use this stuff so easily. So the whole idea is, like, how can we have weapons that are powerful, but at the same time still add opportunities for outplays, and if they don't, then they're very limited on the map. Like a rocket launcher, for example, is extremely powerful, but has the trade-off of being very limited, and also you can hurt yourself if you're not careful with it. The Bulldog, minus maybe its limited range, doesn't really have those trade-offs, especially if you think of a map like Streets, where there's so many corners and so many ways to camp, and you got curb slides you can use to just close the distance. So I guess my hope here is that the Sentinel beam would be a good replacement for it. The Sentinel beam with a more steady output of damage, even though the base damage might be stronger, the lack of a headshot modifier could ensure that you don't die as quickly when you're getting hit by it, which might lead to some room for, counterplay. I'm thinking it might be a cool idea. I think at the end of the day, we want to have diversity in esports. We want to have a variety of different weapons. Finding that balanced sweet spot is tricky, but I think the Sentinel beam is in a better spot just based off of what I'm seeing than the Bulldog, so it might be a good switch. The Ravager is also getting an update. It says to help bring the Ravager some more attention, we've given its primary fire an increase in damage. Previously, the Ravager needed 6 shots from its burst fire barrage to secure a kill, which could kill in 2 bursts, but often required at least 3 bursts on a moving target. Now the Ravager only requires 5 direct shots to kill, which could result in more consistent 2-burst kills. You don't want to sleep on this weapon anymore. Of course, this is a social weapon. I don't think that's going to change, but slight buff is fun for anybody who wants to pick up that weapon in social play, BTB, etc. Now it's going to be, more useful. The AR got buffed as well, and I don't know if I like this one, honestly. It says we want to help improve the reliability and feel of the M40 AR. Previously, when using the M40 AR at full auto, the reticle would get bigger and the bullet spread would expand, resulting in the normal bloom behavior. However, when the AR reached its maximum bloom state, the bullets were trending only to the edges of that bloomed reticle. This meant that there could be times where the weapon would be shooting around the opponent as the bullets would not land closer to the center of the reticle. Now, to help improve the feel of the AR, bullets will land anywhere inside the reticle. This change has resulted in a more consistent handling experience of the AR. But, I mean, at the same time, like, if you're holding the trigger down with the weapon, I think it kind of makes sense that it just shoots all over the place, Now they're, like, limiting it within the range of the reticle, so even at, like, a longer range, you're going to see some pretty consistent damage output, which is just scary to me, because the AR isn't exactly a complicated weapon to use, and I feel like it is already pretty prevalent in social play. The sidekick, much more challenging, more satisfying, I think, but the AR often, beats it out. I can understand and sort of respect 343's, like, ideology to make every weapon feel, like, uniquely useful, but not every weapon is designed equal, Like, the AR is just fundamentally an easier weapon to use than a precision weapon. That's, like, always how it's been. And classic Halo games, the AR was never good, It's always just kind of been, not to say, like, a joke weapon, but, like, it's something that you held so that you could pick up anything else almost in the sandbox. Not that this gun should be a joke as well. It's just, I don't know, it's tricky. You know, like, I don't like the idea of people heavily prioritizing something that's easy to use in Halo when, you know, the game is about earning your kills and the satisfaction that comes from that. The Skewer got a slight buff as well, and I actually like this. It says the Skewer packs a heavy punch, but we commonly see it a one-and-done scenario. To address this, we've increased the reload speed to give players more opportunity to fire off multiple shots and miss combat from 1 to 1.2, so I guess a 20% improvement, which is cool. And currently the Skewer is not being used in competitive play. There's no maps that have it. I kind of would like to see it make a comeback. I do find that, you know, back in Catalyst, when we played that map, it led to some pretty exciting clips and moments. Maybe with a faster reload speed, it could be even more exciting. I don't know. I'd like to see more of it. The M41 Spanker, to address some inconsistencies with close-range Spanker explosions, leaving players with a sliver of health. I've seen that a lot. We've adjusted the weapon's damage fall-off curve. This is to better reward players for more accurate Spanker explosions around enemies. To compensate for this change, we brought in the outer damage radius. We also wanted to increase the ammo reserve to match the legacy titles to help reward players who are able to earn or scavenge for more ammo on the battlefield. So the ammo reserve is strictly for the social modes. I would assume you can get a total of 8. So they're saying damage fall off feels more consistent, which at close range, I'm surprised there's any damage fall off to begin with, right? It's a close range rocket, but I guess, yeah, now we're going to shoot a full powered rocket at close range. So there's less instances with players having a sliver of health, but they're lowering the damage radius. So if you're not as accurate, you're not going to get that kill. So I'm actually very curious to see how this shakes up. The rockets might become more challenging, but maybe we'll see less instances of like inconsistency. I don't know. The S7 Sniper and the Bulldog also got the max ammo capacity improvement from 20 to 24 on the Sniper, 21 to 28 on the Bulldog. And then we have the legendary weapon variant. So this is stuff you'd be using in like Fiesta or Husky Raid. I'm not as invested in this stuff personally, but I'll go through it quickly. We've got the Ravager Rebound. So previously this weapon would shoot 3 shots per trigger pull, and those bullets would like ricochet off the target. Like we can see a rebound, I guess, off of them. Doesn't look very effective, right? The damage is like not directly hitting. They've changed it so every trigger pull you fire 1 shot, and that shot directly blows up on impact. So kind of like a brute shot or a concussion rifle. It actually bounces off the floor like a brute shot. So pretty cool. And then we have the charge shot, where previously if it direct impacts, it'll knock off the shields, and then I guess maybe it'll kill afterwards if you're in the area of effect. Now, if you direct impact with the charge shot, you just outright die. You get insta-killed. So definitely worthwhile picking this up now. And then we have the Impact Commando. This is that super inaccurate commando that just blooms out like instantly. They're finally tightening it up and improving the accuracy of this weapon. It says we've seen the Impact Commando to not be as consistent when the bloom is in full effect. The bloom has been reduced. So awesome. They've also, I think, improved the scope, the aim down sight transition time. The Riven Mangler, they've added a pretty significant rate of fire buff to this thing. It shoots quite a bit faster, so you definitely want to pick this up. It looks pretty deadly. Volatile Skewer, it says better accuracy was the main goal for this change. Volatile Skewer has the same projectile path as the default Skewer. I don't really use this weapon too much, but cool. It looks like the Volatile Skewer getting a slight buff. The Stalker Rifle Ultra, damage, more damage equals more fun. Stalker Rifle Ultra will now deliver a fulfilling perfect kill medal in 3 shots instead of 4-shot kill. They increased the rate of fire of this as well, so give it a shot, see what you think. The Unbound Plasma Pistol, this is the before. This is pretty cool. You can see this is a 1-shot target that we're trying to kill here with individual shots. But now it's going to shoot a burst of 3 shots per pull, and the burst homes onto the target as well, which really makes the weapon seem a lot more unique in comparison to a regular plasma pistol. So cool. Apparently the charge shot shoots 8 projectiles as well. So this thing seems pretty crazy. And I think, you know, go wild. This is Fiesta, right? So I love the fact that they're, you know, they're trying to really switch things up and make something unique out of a more standard base weapon. Now, this update is a big deal. This might be what I'm most excited for in this entire article. We're finally getting the return of nade jumping in Halo. It's only taken like 10 years to finally get here, but this is, of course, where you throw a grenade and you jump off the explosion. The explosion momentum sends you up into the air. You can use it as a skill jump and a whole variety of things. What I love about Infinite's implementation of this, like, this is dramatic. You're getting about a 30%, I think, boost above your peak jump height, which is huge. Like, we're jumping all the way up to the top of the base, which means you can also jump straight from bottom mid to top mid, or from bottom mid, like the courtyard, to P2 using this. And it wouldn't just be for skill jumps. Apparently, this applies to all 3 different nades. First off, so frag nades, they've added the impulse effect, plasma nades, and spike nades. Spike nades have a very limited window, like area of effect, and if you're just outside that area of effect, you take very small amounts of damage by the spike nade. So my question with this is like, is there going to be a way to take the least amount of damage for the largest trade-off, like the biggest possible jump? Because that's the whole thing behind nade jumping, is like, do you want to sacrifice the damage trade-off to get the height, and is that worthwhile? And I think, you know, with how easy it seems to look, like it looks pretty flexible, the amount of time and space you have to get a good boost off this, there might be a way to optimize this so we're flying up in the air and we're taking not very much damage. Or, like, if it's accessible enough, you might be able to choose whether or not you want to use enemy nades to jump off an enemy nade in the middle of a gunfight. Or in social play where nades don't hurt you, does that mean that you can throw a team nade and then launch your teammate up in the air, right? There's a lot of potential with this that I think is going to make it really exciting, and I can't wait to lab it out personally. Also, part of the reason why I think this feature wasn't added at launch was because if the nade physics pop your Spartan up into the air, what happens if you get hit by a nade while you're grounded? Are you going to get sent around the environment, and is that good for gameplay, right? So it says also a feature has been added that if your Spartan is grounded, you will not be impacted by the impulse, which is interesting. Does that mean nothing happens to you? Or, like, what if it's right under your feet? Do you pop up? I don't know. Like, there could be sort of a skill gap behind landing a perfect nade right below a player, because I think back in Halo 3, if you landed a good nade, it would kind of pop them off the ground, and that would ruin their strafe, and you could sort of use that to your advantage, right? So, like, I don't mind having a little bit of it, but I can understand being thrown around by nades being annoying. For vehicles, they've updated the Ghost and the Banshee as well. The Ghost got a little nerf here. It says, to address feedback, we've slightly lowered the health of each of the wings so players can more easily destroy and thus hinder the Ghost's movement. I find controlling the Ghost is so ridiculously powerful to me that it's kind of annoying. Like, it being a little weaker, I'm cool with. It says that they've done some work to the Ghost's reversal speed and lateral movement in hopes to keep it more in check. So, bit of a nerf when you try it out again. The Banshee apparently got a buff. It says we wanted to bring the Banshee back into the spotlight with this update. One of the ways we wanted to do this is by reducing how much damage the Banshee takes while scraping and colliding with surfaces. We've adjusted both weapons from the Banshee in hopes to see more kills from the sky. A little bit worried about buffing the Banshee considering how powerful this can be on mouse. The ability to very quickly kind of turn and 180 and just navigate your environment on mouse is just so much better than controller, and kind of makes this weapon, or this the Banshee, just powerful in the right hands. But we'll see. I don't play a lot of this personally. What do you guys think? There's a couple more articles I'm going to link in the video description if you want to know about the new mode VIP, which is a return of Halo 3's VIP mode, right? You got one VIP player that has like a marker above them. They've added some, you know, updates to it to improve this mode and make it exciting, I guess. I'll just find out when I play it. What I'm more interested in touching on before we close this out is the ranked update. So all the ranks are being reset if you're a heavily invested ranked Halo player like myself. Clean slate, which I'm happy with. Personally, I'm ready to grind. It says balance updates. So we got a lot of different things. Of course, we talked about the Bandit EVO, the Disruptor, the AR, the Spanker, the grenades. All of that stuff will directly impact competitive spawn updates. This could be a big deal. Every single map except Interference, the rig, is getting a spawn update. It says the goal of these changes is to make the spawn system more readable and consistent, along with reducing instances where the players are spawning in overly advantageous positions. So it says certain spawn points located in the middle of maps have been identified as problematic and have been removed. So Recharge has bottom mid spawn points. I would assume stuff like that has been removed. Additional spawn points have been added to already existing spawning areas to account for the removed spawns and improve consistency. So around the perimeter of the map, there's going to be some new spawn points, I guess. What would that mean for the game and the meta? Like, the game could significantly change if the spawns become, you know, tighter and less advantageous in general. So we'll see. I don't know. Spawning in this game is okay. It's not perfect. There's definitely some, you know, some very clear flaws. Hopefully we see some improvements there. But Aquarius layout, this has been asked for a while. The thrust and the OS are going to swap positions. Currently in Aquarius, the OS spawns in P1. Everybody just dives at it off the opening strat. That's going to change. Now with it on top mid, it's going to be very risky to go for. You're vulnerable to a lot more sight lines, but it's also kind of harder to get naded out in the same way that you did on P1. And you might need that thrust in P1 to get it. So I don't know. I think it makes more sense. Rule set updates. So this has been pretty heavily requested by the community. I don't think that this solves the issue that we're having. It's kind of just another band-aid, but I guess it's an improvement. Currently at Onyx 1600, you have to duo queue. You can't 4-stack anymore. The issue with 4-stacks is obviously it's very powerful in a 4-stack when you're playing, and people use that to kind of speed run their way to the highest of Onyx ranks. So they wanted to kind of limit that possibility and get rid of some of the 4-stacks at the higher levels. But that also means you can't play with your buddies once you hit this certain rank. People felt like 1600 was too low of a rank for the cutoff, so they bumped it to 1700. So you'll get an extra 100 CSR to work through with your buddies before you hit that upper echelon level. I guess, you know, hopefully that sort of benefits like the situation. I think they could go even higher, 1750, maybe 1800. What's cool though is now once you hit 1700, you get the same benefits that we were getting at 1800 in this current season. If you're not aware, if you're at 1800 Onyx, you get this special deterministic CSR where you get only +7 per win and -7 per loss, regardless of your performance. It's just static, assuming you're above 1700, as opposed to, you know, getting like -11 and like +6, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are kind of in that position. If you get to the point where your MMR and your CSR are sort of aligned, the game thinks you deserve to be at that rank, it starts to try to keep you there by giving you less CSR rewards and more CSR, like you lose more when you lose, right? It's a frustrating position to be in, and you have to kind of beat the game's expectation of how you're going to play every time and get more kills in every lobby so that you can get more CSR in the long run. Now, I guess you can 4-stack to that 1700 threshold, and then you're done 4-stacking once you hit it, but at least you're getting +7, -7 at a steady pace if you can make it there. Onyx 1700 is about where you can expect to match pro players on a regular basis, so we can call it the big leagues, let's say, and you don't have to solo queue to get to that point anymore, which I think is sort of exciting. Separately from this, there's been some back-end experiments that have been taking place that supposedly have been increasing the matchmaking wait times. Wait times have gotten suddenly a lot longer recently. Apparently, part of the reason is due to this experimentation that Tashi and I guess 343 have been working on. There's a long article here that I'm not going to read all of, but if you want to know the outcomes of the experimentation that they've been doing, you can read about it here and why, you know, the situation is the way it is. But I think the ultimate objective is they're trying to find the best balanced, most competitive matches that they can so that you're always getting into good lobbies. But in order to do that, it's going to, you know, impact how long it takes to find games, your search region, etc. What I'm hoping is that the queue times improve as soon as we start grinding it here today. So that's my fingers crossed, you know, expectation. In Rank Slayer, they've made some adjustments to the map pool and sandbox. They've removed Forbidden from the playlist. Apparently it was not a fan favorite. And then Cliffside, Illusion, Forest all have some sandbox adjustments, which you can go ahead and read. Again, the link will be in the description for all of this stuff, guys. That basically concludes it, though. A lot of little things to look forward to with this update. They're all good changes, and I can tell that there's some attention to detail and heart that goes into this. Like, I'm most excited about the Bandit EVO. I think that's going to change the way that all of Ranked feels, and the nade jumping I think is going to be fun too, but we still need maps. I'm not sure what's going on with Origin and Fortress. Origin is a Coliseum remake. Fortress is supposed to be coming to Ranked, both of these maps as well, but there's no mention of them in the article, so hopefully we find out soon. Obviously, we want more weapons. Obviously, there's stuff that was like leaked, that was unfinished in the game that I'd love to see finished and then brought to Infinite in the future. So, you know, it's like, it's not exactly answering anyone's prayers, you know, as a Halo fan, but it is still good stuff and it will improve the game. And I'm just trying to stay as optimistic as I can as a Halo fan, you know, despite the circumstances. And I'm not sure what's going on with the whole CloudStrike security thing, but I'm really hoping the servers and the game performance is good today so we can just get a good day of Halo. Either way, guys, I'm excited to get into this stuff. I'll definitely be playing this update. If you guys want more educational content from me, if you want gameplay from me, just stay tuned on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Any questions you have or stuff that you want me to make videos on, you can feel free to let me know in the comments as well. Are you looking forward to this update? What do you love? What do you hate about it? Come watch me play it live on Twitch. I will definitely be streaming. Or if you want to stay on YouTube, you want similar content, right here, right beside me. This is the way.